It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Hello to all. Welcome to Divas That Care Network. I am Joyce Benning, and I will be your host for this very invigorating, robust lifestyle show. I want to thank each one of our listeners for tuning in today and the ones that will listen to the recording. We are very grateful for each one of you listeners. And I am just overly excited again today to have my returning diva, Deb Matlock, with me, who returns every first Thursday of the month at 11:30 Mountain Time to share her knowledge and wisdom with us. And today she's going to speak about animal and nature communication. We've been talking about this for a couple months, and it is such a great topic. We're going to add some more to it for our listeners. So, Deb, could you please just introduce yourself to our listeners today?
Absolutely, yes. Thank you so much for having me back on the show. I am Deb Matlock, and I live in Colorado, USA, and I am a nature-based spiritual arts guide, and one of my passions in life is the deep connection between people in the natural world, people in the world of animals, and people in the world of spirit. And I have a small business called Wild Rhythms where I do that work through. So I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Oh, awesome. So am I, Deb. I am so excited once again. This animal and nature communication, it is such a huge realm of different topics and different things to share with our listeners. What is something that is on your heart today that you would like to start to share about the animal and nature communication, about your spiritual guide in what you are doing?
You know, something that's really been coming up for me in recent weeks has been that there are so many different ways that we can look at communication, and that we can engage in communication, and that we can weave that into our lives in myriad of ways. And so I think it's important as we're starting this, and I think we may have touched on this a little bit in a previous episode too, but that, you know, how we each understand communication with the animals in our lives and the natural world around us, that can look very different. It can look different based on our personal experiences, based on our cultural backgrounds and experiences, based on our family experiences. You know, all of these things come together, but the communication itself is this very vast topic of interconnection and interaction and existing together. And so I love thinking of it in such a big lens that it really opens up a lot of space for how we each might define and identify that for ourselves.
Oh, yes. Oh, how beautifully said, yes. So many thoughts were coming to my mind about how we communicate, and everyone does in a different way. I mean, even with the animals, or like the clouds in the sky. I was just thinking the other night, it'd been some days you just kind of feel a little more stressed than others, and it was just like I looked up in the sky, and it was like, and it might have been just my imagination, but it was like there was an angel up in the clouds saying, "I'm watching over you. It's all okay." And that was such a communication to me from nature that it's all right. It's going to be okay. So the different ways we can communicate is just, it is such a vast realm of different ideas that I just love it. And another one I had thought about was even with the trees and how they change with each season. If we really think about it, in my thoughts, we should not fear change. They don't fear change. They go through it all the time. What are your takes on some things like that?
Oh, I love what you said about that. We should not fear change. The trees go through it all the time. And, you know, as you're saying that, I was thinking, yes, they go from buds to beautiful leaves to colors, different colors of fall leaves to to no leaves, for a deciduous tree, and it just happens every year. It happens on a regular cycle, a rather regular rhythm, and they're communicating through that. They're talking, how well they bust out in leaves tells us how much did they get enough water, are they healthy enough, are they able to do that, and the colors of the fall, how fast the colors change, and that tells us that's a way for us to communicate with the natural world. I know here in Colorado, our aspen trees, they tell the story of how warm the fall has been, how quick the freezes are coming in, it's shown in the aspen leaves, by how long they stay, the spectrum of colors we get. And so you're right, that's such a wisdom, and I think looking for signs in the natural world, like the cloud shaped like an angel that you mentioned, or the trees changing, this is a very tangible way for us to be in a deep communicative relationship. It doesn't have to be something where we're always hearing voices or seeing images and things. It can be that, but I think so much more often it's exactly what you're describing. It's letting ourselves be open to this wisdom from the natural world, sharing what can we contribute, what can we learn, how do we interface with each other, and seeing a cloud in the sky that just at the right time impacts your heart in just the right way. It's really hard for me to think that that's a coincidence, and why would I think that? I think we've been taught, so many of us, to think that doesn't mean anything. But what if we walk through thinking, well, but what if it does? What if it's exactly what it is a communication, a message? How does our life look different if we let that be our worldview, even just for a day?
Oh yes. Oh, I so agree with you, because just seeing that in the sky that night, it just took on a whole new meaning. And like I said, with the trees, it just kind of hit me this morning that they're so beautiful and green and vibrant right now because we've had the moistures here, and in another month or two they're going to look totally different, and they're not worrying about it. They don't show signs of stress.
Right.
And I just so, if you really, like you said, we really have to pay attention and let go of maybe some of the things that we thought, like seeing in the sky or feeling what the trees are trying to tell us. They have so much to give to us if we just open up and let it come in, is how I feel.
Absolutely, and it opens up such an opportunity for a reciprocity. We can tend, for example, if we have a yard or a park, we can tend the trees, we can care for the land in our communities. We can support open space, we can, conservation efforts, we can be part of these things, and in a way of giving back, and at the same time we can be so enriched by what you're just talking about. The trees aren't necessarily, that first leaf that turns a fall color. They're not plucking it off in the mirror going, oh, I can't have that, whereas we might see a gray hair and go, oh my gosh, I got to get that out of my head. What if it's just all good, and it's just part of that rhythm of life, and the communication, one of the ways we can do that is by looking for those signs and by giving back in whatever ways we can in our communities or in our homes even, it's just such a beautiful reciprocity, so much potential.
Yes, there is just so much potential of we can all benefit with each other. We all breathe the same air, live under the same sky, and we can all learn from one another and help each other, be it the trees, be it the animals. We can all benefit by communicating with one another and helping each other out when they need it. If it's dry weather and we see the flowers or something is needing a drink, it's their sign to us to give them that drink. Some people would say, well, yeah, I just got to water my flowers. But no, they're telling you they do need a drink. It kind of even came to me this morning. I was watering the cattle, which I do all the time, and especially more in the summer when it's so warm. But that when the tanks get about half full, it's time. They're saying, okay, we need these filled up so the baby calves can reach the tanks and get a drink. You can really, to me, you can really spiritually go in and start to feel what they are kind of thinking in some ways. Do you feel that that's a possibility?
Yes, and I think that's such a beautiful place for us to kind of move from. If we let that be one of our centers, that guides us through our days, then, do we have that empathy, and we look at the life around us, and we sort of understand. I see a fly struggling in my dog water bowl on the back porch, and when empathy and my heart are open, and not only do I have, I think, a better chance of noticing that and not just rushing by doing whatever I'm doing, but I'm also going to stop and help, and it's like it takes 2 seconds, and for that fly it makes all the difference. And, it's just a fly, but, who am I to say that fly doesn't have a reason and that there isn't some reason why I noticed that fly needing help? There's a lot of flies around here that I don't notice, and they end up in the cat mouth or, but it's like we can give and be empathetic and caring and compassionate, I think, from that place. And that doesn't mean, life requires life. That's one of the existential realities that we all have to face. Whether people are vegetarian or not, life requires life. Every plant, every animal, that's the reality for all of us. And, I was leading a nature hike years ago, and one of the little riddles I would say to the kids at the beginning of the hike is, we were talking about predator-prey was the topic, and I said, so by the end of this hike, I'm really excited if somebody can tell me, how is it possible for a blade of grass to eat a mountain lion? Because where I live, we have mountain lions, and the kids are like, this lady's lost her mind, but the truth is, when the mountain lion dies and the body goes back to the soil, then the blades of grass do consume that mountain lion. It's this beautiful, but that doesn't mean that in our process of each day we can't look with respect and compassion. And I think that spiritual connection that you were talking about and letting that communication come in so many different ways really opens us up for being on this earth in a way that is sacred and deeply honoring of the value of all life.
Yes. Oh, yes, definitely, because they each have a purpose here. They were created here just like we were. And to me, like with my animals, like the horses and the dogs and the cats and the cattle, my responsibility is to help take care of them and make sure they have that feed and water in front of them. And to me, it's a privilege. It's not something that's a burden. It's a privilege because I get to spend that time with them animals and have that connection with them. And I love that. It is just, it's a great feeling at the end of the day to know you have helped them to live a more fulfilled day is kind of how I kind of look at it.
Oh, that is so beautiful, and I love the idea of it being a privilege. I think that is that really hit my heart when you said that. It's like our privilege that we have to care for each other, to be in these interspecies relationships and communicating in all the different ways that we do is such a beautiful part of life. I think often if I didn't have other animals in my life, there would just be such a void. It would just be this emptiness. Not that I don't enjoy humans, I do, but there's a quality of life that my dogs and my cats and the birds and the wildlife and the animals that I live near. There's cows nearby on open space where I take my dogs, and it's so precious to see all these other beings, and here we are on this big world and this big universe in this one little place all together right now for that moment. It's just part of that mystery that I don't know that I can fully understand, but that I love thinking of it as a privilege. I appreciate that perspective.
Oh, well, thank you. And That's how I feel. I just love it. And even like we have little barn swallows, and I love barn swallows. I think I've said this before, but the other day I was in the barn and the little ones were just opening their mouths out of their nests like, okay, Mom, we're ready to eat. Where are you at? It was so cute. They're just so special. And the barn swallows, they're all over, and they're just beautiful. I mean, nature is there's just something about it that really touches your heart when you're out in it and really brings you closer to the true meaning of different things. For me, it definitely is that way.
I would agree, and I also think if we look at the idea of nature as everywhere, then even if we can't get out, or we're living in a place or we have a certain limitation, whether it's physical or mental or, pandemic-wise, I know a lot of people different parts of the world were basically stuck in their homes and their apartments for the bulk of many months. But the natural world is everywhere, and so it's like the fibers in our clothing, the sheets, the wood in our furniture, by all means, the food that we're eating. Every little packet of oatmeal or something, these oats came from the earth somewhere in the planet, right? And they carry with, I think, that, when we allow ourselves to kind of think of it that way, is that we're always in this deep connection. We're always in this space where we are part of nature and nature is part of us, and we can take that sense of that sacred, that little packet of quick oats can be a really sacred moment if we let it. I love to sort of imagine, when I'm making a salad, where all these heads of lettuce grew. Some of them I know, maybe I got them at a local farm stand. Some of them I don't know. But I just love to sort of, in my mind, play around with picturing it. Like, where did you come from? What was it like, and who picked you? And, and now here you are on my dinner table. And what an honor that is.
Oh, that's beautiful, Deb. Takes on such new meaning even to our food if we really stop and think about it, because it is nature. It was grown somewhere, and from there to our table. So, that is a great way to put it, especially for like people that are living in town or in a small apartment or something, or even if they have a plant, any kind of a small plant, there's nature growing right there. But that food, that was a great explanation. I love that.
And it's like every day, if we're fortunate, we have water to drink. And if we don't have water, there aren't very many days that we have left, right? So we need it, and yet it's also such an intimate way to take the earth right into us, the water, the food, the air we breathe, deep connection. And I think in a way it's also deep communication. It's like when my body starts to feel thirsty, me as a natural being, I'm communicating something to myself. And then this gift from the earth, this water, comes along and takes care of it. And it's like when I think of disconnection from nature, I have to say it's only perceived, because we can't really disconnect. Without air, food, and water, we're not long for this world. So it's and I think along those lines that our ability to communicate, to share, like we talked at the beginning, whatever communication might mean, it's as natural as breathing, because we are part of this whole amazing earth.
Yes. And like I said earlier, we all breathe the same air. And how beautiful that's said, without air, water, we need it, air, water, and the food, and how it's like it's a full circle. We all need each other in different ways to make it all a complete circle, to make it be a rhythm that keeps it all going. Oh, yes, that was beautiful. I love that.
Yeah,
well,
I love that circle. Yeah, you're totally right.
Yes, that's how I look at it. We're all in it we're all in a circle together, and it takes each one of us to make it work. We're all like we're holding hands together to bring it all together and make it all happen. And what a beautiful world it would be if we could all just communicate like that in ways with nature and the animals and see it as a circle that we can all hold hands together and help one another.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I love that.
Oh,
I can see that image in my mind.
Yeah, I can too. I can very easily see that. Well, we've kind of talked about nature and the air, and we touched on the sky. What are some valuable things you think that we can learn from the animals themselves if we really stop and pay attention to what they're saying, be it they're our small pet or be it a animal we see out as we're driving? What is one or two valuable things you think we can take from them animals to help us live in this circle together?
Oh, what a beautiful question. You know, the first thing that comes to mind, I think of my dogs, and I think, you know, how very present moment they are. And I know for myself how very hard present moment can be sometimes. I mean, I have 1,000 things going on in my mind, you know, a to-do list a mile long, emails coming in, you know, present moment sometimes it's easy to miss for me. And I look at my dogs and I think, you know, they go outside, they lay down in the sun, they're taking a nap, a squirrel runs by, they jump up, they focus on the squirrel, then they go back, and, you know, I can't pretend to be one of them. I don't know how much they're worried about their elder years or their retirement or, you know, all those things. But when I look at their lives, I feel like they just respond, you know, and they also, when they're tired, they sleep. When they're thirsty, they drink. And these things sound so simple, but when I look at the animals around me, I'm reminded that I have to actually take effort to do that. I have to take effort to say, wow, I am really tired. Is there any way I can make space for a nap today? You know, or I'm really getting hungry here. I have 4 more meetings. What can I do about the fact that I need to eat? You know, it's just, they're so wise in that regard, I think. And, you know, another thing which I speculate on is that I feel, again, I don't know for sure, but I feel like the animals also have an easier time understanding life and death. And, you know, releasing their physical body when it's time for their spirit to go. And, you know, I mean, I know that I've seen people and family members and things, you know, grappling and hanging on when their body was so tired, you know, and having to sit there and say, it is okay if you let it go. And in my work with animals and animal communication work and things, it seems like there's a wisdom there that we could learn from. Yes. Not that they don't have biological imperative, not that they're not going to fight for their lives if they can, you know, but when those moments come, you know, I've seen rabbits in the talons of eagles who just, they know, I feel like, and they just stop fighting. And it puts me in awe, and it humbles me quite a lot to see that.
Yes. Oh, those are both beautiful valuables to learn from the animals. And I had written down too, when I thought about that, I thought living in the present moment. That is probably one things I struggle with, and my horses remind me all the time, is live in the moment and enjoy this moment that you have. And we're so many of us, and just like what you said, we've got a to-do list that's 100 miles long, and we think we got to get it all done. And yeah, if we could just live in the moment and take care of ourselves like they do. When they need a drink, they go get it. I love that. That is beautiful.
Yeah, and it's so wise, you know. It's like, okay, I have a very old kitty right now who's kind of hospice, and if she's hungry, she'll come squawk at me, and it doesn't matter if it's breakfast time, lunch time, dinner. She doesn't care what time it is. She's ready to eat. You know, and she doesn't go, well, I shouldn't be hungry. It's not lunchtime. You know, she could care less about that. Smart gal.
We need to take lessons from them, definitely.
Yeah.
And I agree with the easier they do, like you said, with the rabbit, with the eagle, and just I see it with the cattle and just different things. And they do seem to let it go so much easier than what us humans do. And yeah, that is another beautiful aspect of the animals too. They have so much to teach us if we just take the time and watch and listen to them. They are incredible. They are so wise. It's sometimes I'm like, oh my word, where'd you get all your wisdom? It's just unbelievable.
I agree. And can you share just a tidbit of that with me, please? Because I really like you have this wildness and this incredible knowledge, and I'm envious sometimes. I'll see coyotes and I'll just be like, I'm a little jealous of what you know, and how you can survive and I couldn't pull it off. That's for sure. Yeah,
I know. Well, that's like these little barred swallows. They amaze me because they're so small, and yet they build such an incredible nest for their little ones. They always find feed to feed them. It just amazes me at the wisdom that they have to do all of this. I mean, we as people, a lot of carpenters to build homes, they get training for it or have years of experience, and these birds are just building it like, no big deal.
And they're doing it with their beaks. They don't even have thumbs. I know.
Exactly. It's incredible. And we spend hours preparing food, and they're like, they're just go get something and bring it back right away. They amaze me at the wisdom they have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Animals and nature, they have so much to give if we just take the time and live in that present moment and see what is around us is sometimes how I think. I'm like, oh my, how true that is. Let go of all that worry and stress that we seem to keep on us sometimes. So it would be so nice to just take their wisdom and utilize it so much.
Yeah, and it doesn't even take that much time each day just to be a little bit more aware, Right. It's really just a perception for us,
Definitely.
We can be cleaning out the garage and same a task we would be doing and just be doing it a little bit differently with that added level of awareness and openness.
Yes. Mhm. Oh, yes, definitely. Well, Deb, this interview has gone so quickly again. I'm just like, oh my goodness, this animal and nature communication, I think we could just talk for hours on it. There is so much, or such a big realm of it. It's unbelievable. What is a final tip you would like to leave with our listeners today about animal and nature communication?
I think a fun one for this one would be to think about what can we learn from the food we're eating. Even if we're playing around in the kitchen and just saying to the lettuce, where did you come from? And just letting ourselves be open to what ideas might come to our head, or who grew you, or who picked you, and just starting to see ourselves in that holistic way. We all have to eat, so it's in front of us. And I think when we can have some of that awareness and reverence for what we're eating, that to me is one of the most profound ways we can connect to the world around us and, open ourselves up for all of this learning we've been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is a beautiful tip because that is something everyone can do. No matter where they live or where they're located, we all eat food. So that is a beautiful tip. I love that, Deb. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. This was so much fun. It's always a pleasure to talk with you.
Oh, thank you, Deb. The pleasure is all mine to have you as my guest. I always look forward to it. I absolutely love it. It was great. And awesome. I want to thank Deb Matlock again for being my guest. And listeners, please tune in the first Thursday of September at 11:30 Mountain Time to hear some more wisdom and knowledge from Deb Matlock. And be sure to share this podcast with all of your friends and family. And check out all the other Divas That Care, the hosts and their shows on divasthatcare.com. Remember, have a fantastic day. Be kind to all. Give your animals an extra hug and share your love with them. And go out and enjoy nature a little bit. And until we connect again on Robust Lifestyles, stay strong and healthy.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.